Thank you. Let's continue with Tanner talking with persona. Hi, Tanner. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just do a quick sound check. Everyone can hear me, right? Wait for some validation first before I get started. Okay. Cool. Alrighty. Give me a second. We're going to get started now. So yeah, a little bit of a different change in direction, I think is the more appropriate word. So we've had some really good talks already. This is going to delve a bit more into a more niche and specific subject. So first and foremost, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanner. Before I get started, I just want to introduce a bit about myself. So I'm currently a Scrum Master. I'm working at Shpock, which is part of the Advinta family. I've been with the company since the beginning of March this year, and it's been an amazing journey so far, just a personal account. Lots of learning, lots of growth. Some other bits of information about me: I am a certified systemic coach. I like that one. An avid agile practitioner. I'm a born and bred Londoner, and I'm also a lifelong Arsenal Football Club fan. So for anyone who enjoys football as much as I do, come on, you Gunners. As a consultant, I've also had the opportunity to work in many different organizations, from large financial institutions like MasterCard and Lloyds Bank to smaller setups, working in health tech, marketing automation, and sustainable scale-ups, large organizations. Got the mug, got the t-shirt, done the gift shop, I need from it. Me, and what I would like to do is introduce you to my talk today, the Scrum Master personas. And I'm guessing the first question is, what are Scrum Master personas? For those of us who are familiar with working with practices like UX and service design, personas are a common tool. We generally use them we use them as a way to be able to create characters that help us understand intent. They explain characteristics, behaviors. They allow us to become a bit more explicit with what we're trying to do. Scrum Master personas are very similar to this. If you get or understand those ideas, then this talk will be able to resonate with you. Why personas? Why do I think they're important? Is because as Scrum Masters, particularly, and I know this is the focus of this particular talk is on a specific role, but it's just generally being able to help align your intentions and your behaviors in service of the team. Servant leadership is a big part of Scrum Mastership. So being able to serve your teams is a big component to what we do. Personas can also help you identify some of your own strengths and your own challenges. It also can help you connect abstract ideas to more deliberate actions. And we'll go on to that. And personally, it's my belief that all of these things together help us become better Scrum Masters. Because one of the biggest learnings I've had in my career to date has always been that the first system you work on is yourself. And hopefully I'll be able to translate that idea throughout this talk. Now, how am I going to do any of that? How are we going to do it? First and foremost, I want to be able to establish a shared understanding of the word persona within the context of what we're talking about, so we can all operate from the same knowledge. Then I'll introduce you to a tool to help facilitate that and add some common Scrum Master personas to that to help you identify and become a bit more familiar with this abstract concept and how to make it a bit more tangible and real for you. Finally, what we're going to do is a bit of a gallery walk. So we're going to go around and we're going to meet each of the personas, understand a bit more about who they are, how they help, strengths, challenges, and I'll share some of my own experiences in terms of how they've helped me and in other occasions, how they haven't. My hopes for this talk, and by the end of this talk, what I would, if I do a great job, so I'm aiming for this, is to help you be able to identify your own strengths and challenges, for you to be able to create your own wheel of personas, to increase situational awareness, and just increase overall empathy for the people that you're working with. Again, bearing in mind these servant leader principles of being of service to the team. Right. So let's get into it. Let's start with personas. Let's create a shared understanding around that. So what do we mean when we say personas? The origins of the word come from Latin, and they generally refer to a theatrical mask. You know, we put this mask on and we become someone else. Very similar to actors in Hollywood when they go and play different roles. Unless you're Adam Sandler or maybe Bruce Willis, then you're pretty much the same person in every movie. There's always exceptions to the rules, and apologies to any Adam Sandler or Bruce Willis fans who might be listening. Personas allow us to create new identities. They give us the capability to create characteristics and skills. They allow us to step into things which we would normally not necessarily step into. It gives us the ability to create range in our Scrum Mastering. Some of us may be more technical, but through the use of personas, we may push ourselves to start focusing on more softer skills. And I'll get into more detail as we go along. So we've got a basis now. Personas are the ability to be able to create a new identity. And this is our persona wheel. So this is the tool I was referring to earlier. The persona wheel is an adaptation of a tool used within the coaching that I'm trained in. So the coaching methodology, which I am certified within, is called Organizational Relationship Systems Coaching. That whole model of learning is built upon this idea of experiential learning. Like you experience something and you learn while you're doing it. So for now, you can see this big circle with all these different characters in it. In an ORS setting, this would be in a physical space. So if you could imagine for a moment that this is in front of you. It's on the floor, and you are in and around it. You may walk through it. The personas are a representation of all the skills that I put together. These are the common ones which I associate with Scrum Masters. And similarly, if you're in a physical space, you would be walking through this. And the point of that is to be able to give you the perspective of when you look at these different characters, which ones do you associate yourself with? Some are natural, like you just lean into some of them straight away because you're like, yeah, that's me. That's me. I'm that person. And some of them are like stretches for you. So you may say, oh, I am not that person. I can't do that. What you may also notice when you're looking at this is that there is one wedge of this wheel, which is empty. And that refers to this concept of infinite possibilities. What do I mean by that? We don't close this loop because these aren't the only 5 personas in the world. There is an infinite number of personas available. There is an infinite number of characters you can become when you're in the role of the Scrum Master. We're quite fortuitous in the sense that the industries that we work in allow us to be exposed to different types of scenarios. Our context is rich, our experiences are rich. Ergo, there isn't one way to do something. So this wheel is just trying to simply manifest some common personas. And when we get into it again with the application, this may look very different for you. Fundamentally, what we're talking about here again is a service to the team. So if you were to use this wheel in service of this team, which personas would help me? So what I would like to do now is introduce you to the team. So we're going to go through each one and try to understand a bit more about these personas. I'm going to start with Nanny McPhee, purely because, don't know about you, for me personally, but Nanny McPhee is probably the role model to every single Scrum Master. For any of us who are familiar with the lines of when you want me but do not need me, I will be here. But when you want me but no longer need me, then I will leave. That's pretty much become a de facto come from place for me, especially. Like I tend to start all of my roles with trying to work from that place. This idea of being able to make yourself redundant, to be in constant service to the teams that you're working with. It's really empowering. It gives you more conviction in what you're doing. Nanny McPhee has many skills, and all of them are helpful, particularly these ideas of becoming authoritative and protective. I can recall many experiences because one of my own personal development areas has been around conflict. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years trying to understand what conflict means because I've never been good at it. I used to tend to suppress conflict a lot. So leaning into these personas on a personal level has helped me come out of my comfort zone, helped me push certain boundaries, and allowed me to do things that I wouldn't normally do because the frame of reference is so easy to recall. So Nanny McPhee has been great. There's times that I've stepped up when stakeholders have been badgering certain members of the team. It's not to say that developers or members of a squad can't look after themselves, but when we speak about servant leadership, sometimes being the person to take that first action allows us to create the space for others to step into it as well. So Nanny McPhee is great for that. On the flip side to that, Nanny McPhee is used to crises or dilemma, and sometimes may not be helpful. This is one of those stories which I'm not too happy about, but I've gone into teams sometimes unintentionally. I'll use the word unintentional. And sometimes I've come across as being too authoritative. I've done the whole, your stand-up is not 15 minutes long. You're doing it wrong. I've been that guy. I can accept my sins. Now, being authoritative helps, but when you're going into a new team, is it really the most helpful thing to do? Does it really help you establish the bonds with team members? Does it really help you create empathy? In that example, it didn't. It distanced people from me, and then they started referring to me as the Agile Police. Lesson learned. Nanny McPhee. Moving on, the second member of our team, Jiminy Cricket. What a great character. Disney hero. For those of us who don't know, just in case you may or may not, this is probably going to be a spoiler if you don't, but I assume that you do. Jiminy Cricket served as Pinocchio's consciousness in the movies. And for me personally, this persona represents a coaching stance with a team, because Scrum Mastering also involves coaching. The Scrum Guide itself refers to it on 3 occasions. And that's because Jiminy Cricket can ask those questions. It can be very lighthearted. It can reflect, like these skills. It brings these skills out when you lean into this persona. Creating awareness. Coaching is just basically our own subconscious mind speaking to ourselves. It's just someone else is taking that role. It's being able to ask these questions that no one else we know could ask. It's a powerful process from which we can reflect on what we're doing. And where do I want to go with that? Challenges, right? The problem with coaching is sometimes you can get so meta, you lose the point sometimes. So that's already explaining a challenge. But you lose context, and that can happen. Sometimes you join a team who are doing something more specific, because on a personal level, I haven't experienced the challenge because fortunately enough, my experience and training has allowed me to use this persona in a more sparing way. So I'm more cognizant and conscious of how I use it and implement it. But I have had experiences of peers who go and learn coaching, they're enlightened, they've got new knowledge, they go back into the teams that they're working with and they try to be coachy. What does that look like? How do you feel about that? They use these types of questions, and then that can just infuriate people, because sometimes what the team needs may be an answer, or it may be just for you to get out the way. Sometimes being meta and trying to ask powerful questions doesn't always help. So this is why we talk about situational awareness. Can you read the room? Can you be in service to the group of people that you're working with? third member of this wheel is the jester. Now, this is one that I lean into. I would probably say this is me all over. This is one that I enjoy doing the most, or at least I believe I'm funny enough to do it. But I tend to use humor a lot, and I would use humor even in the most difficult of situations. I would use humor to squash conflict as well. And looking back now, knowing what I know, that may probably not have been the most helpful thing. But the jester, in this context, if we look back to the origins of what the jester would do, in medieval courts, they'd probably be the only person who could be around a monarchy or a king or a queen and say things that other people wouldn't be able to say. I mean, not without getting their heads chopped off. Because they straddle this line. You know, there's a line between what's okay and what's not okay. And humor tends to do that. It pushes us to edges and extremes. But it also has the potential to change the mood of a room. Like something could be quite tense and someone could introduce a joke or say something funny, and then suddenly the mood of the room changes. Humor can also be a way of providing candid feedback. Now, the problem with this is that sometimes humor can be antagonistic. It can polarize people. It can make you come across as being apathetic, because all you do is like make a joke. So again, context is important. Context is the key word which underlines all of these, by the way. Understanding context helps you use to implement these personas. Moving on, we've got the invisible person. Why is there an invisible person on the team? Why is there an invisible person here? Because sometimes, in my own personal experience, and I'm going to say that the invisible person can help, because going back to the comment I made about conflict, I would squash conflict before. It's taken me a long time to learn that conflict can be a source of innovation. So this persona is very close to my heart, because I always find myself asking the question to myself, am I getting in the way? Because this persona helps me fade. I can fade out of conversations. I don't have to be front and center. If I step away and I let what's happening unfold, what could happen? So this persona has great capabilities to be able to hold space and let things happen. Now, the challenge is that if you stay with this single persona, what tends to happen is that you may end up becoming disconnected or lose context. Again, that's happened to me. I've been in a planning meeting, people have been talking, I've tried to fade out to let the discussion happen. So, because creativity is a conflict process as well. So I'm letting people talk, I'm letting them have their way, but then I've lost context. And then when I need to be seen and heard, I've struggled. So again, this is one to be used sparingly. The last member of this particular wheel is the news reporter, the truth sayer, the objective person, the person who's fierce, who can go against the grain, who can go against the status quo, who's willing to be empirical, because that's important with an ESM role, right? We need to be empirical. We need to be grounded. We can't come from opinion. We need to find facts. So the news reporter is the persona which helps embody those skills. Going to leadership teams, this behavior is not helpful. This behavior is not helpful. The challenge with this particular role, though, is, again, it can alienate people. It can come across as being apathetic. It can come across as, I don't need you to broadcast what I'm doing. I just want a friendly ear. I just want to be able to vent. Sometimes we lose that. So that's all the personas. How you use this is relatively straightforward. So if you wanted to apply this for yourself, you draw a circle like this, create some wedges, depending on the amount of personas you want to work with. Always leave one blank, because that represents all of the other possibilities in the world. But the ones that you want to work with, and I guess if you had a topic to focus on around, is this team I'm working with, what are the personas this team could benefit from? Who do they need? Draw your personas out. If you can, walk. So do the experiential part, really lean into each one. Identify your strongest one. Go there. What does it look like? How are you strong when you're in this persona? How does it help you? Then you identify your weakest one. Go there. Why is it weak? Or why is it a challenge? Like why am I not good here? Because my one was the news reporter. I wasn't good. I couldn't articulate my words when I was trying to express what was happening. And then you go, the final step is basically going through a process of identifying how can your strongest one help with the one that's challenging? And then you put some actions together for personal development. So this is how we take really abstract ideas by drawing a persona wheel and then filtering it through to something that can actually impact you on your day-to-day job. So I appreciate that was really quick, and we've gone through meta topics very quickly. But I would like to come to a point where we can start wrapping up the talk for now. So I'd like to thank you for your attention today. But I'd also like to make a request. So these were the things that I was hoping to achieve for today. So my personal request is that if you use this tool, could you please reach out to me and share your experiences of using Scrum Master personas? And the questions that I would like to be able to help with answers for is, did it help you identify strengths and challenges? Did it help you with your situational awareness? Did it help you build more empathy with the people and teams you work with? I would really like to know. So you can see my email address is on the screen, so you can reach out to me directly. Alternatively, if you wanted to reach out to me, you could do so on LinkedIn. And again, I'm not expecting everyone to get this straight away. So if there's anything I can help with or support, just shoot me a message. I'll be more than happy to run this through with you again. Happy to explain any more of the topics in detail. Yeah, so I'm about. So thank you again. It's been an incredible experience. Say thank you to all of the organizers and to the other speakers. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference. I'm happy to take any questions now, if anyone has any.
So thank you, Tanner.
Okay, thank you, Tanner.